Guys, let's talk about Yamoshi again. The most beautiful Saiyan will officially become the new goddess of destruction, but for that to happen she will have a big challenge. Will she be able to do it? And it doesn't end there. Yamoshi wants to have a child with Goku, but it will be for a good cause, and you will see everything now. Well, let's see that now. So I left your like. We will reach the goal of 3,000 likes. When this goal is achieved, I will bring the next one episode of the sequences. Agreed. That said, let's get started. 5 years later. 5 years had passed since the day Goku and Vegeta defeated Hiroki and Q. The Prince of the Saiyans used a new transformation that he had never used in any combat before, and together with the power of the energy of destruction he managed to become strong enough to defeat the Fox Q, who had come from another dimension. Goku had used his new transformation together with the power of Excalibur. The Saiyan defeated Hiroki, and in this way Goku avenged his master Beerus and managed to end Yamoshi's nightmare by defeating Hiroki and saving the planet Earth along with everyone who inhabited the planet. And after the defeat of Hiroki and Q, Beerus spent these years recovering from the battle against Hiroki and Q, and after his recovery, Beerus wanted his position as God of Destruction of the 7th universe back. But Whis ended up refusing, saying that Beerus was weak to occupy the position of God of Destruction because according to the angel himself there were even mortals who were stronger than Beerus, and these two mortals were Goku and Vegeta, who, after mastering their new transformations, during the battle against Hiroki and Q, the Saiyans became so powerful that they could both defeat Beerus alone, and according to Whis, Goku would not need to use Excalibur to defeat Beerus, which clearly left Beerus extremely angry. Beerus then challenged Vegeta to a fight. Vegeta accepted, and just as Whis had imagined, Vegeta defeated Beerus using his new power. Defeated and frustrated, Beerus ended up leaving, but he said he would return to regain his position as God of Destruction, and with that Beerus went to the 6th universe where he began training with the help of his puppy Akon, who still obeyed his orders. As Beerus was still the official God of Destruction of the 7th universe, since Yamoshi was just a replacement for now. But Yamoshi wasn't the type of person to sit still, so she started training with Whis, who taught Yamoshi how she should use and controlling the power of Hakai that all the gods of destruction possessed. For Yamoshi to master the power of destruction was actually quite easy, which surprised the angel Whis and Vegeta. After all, the Prince of Saiyans had gone through the same training and was unable to learn so quickly. Like Yamoshi, Beerus and Yamoshi were not the only ones who continued training to become stronger, as Goku and Vegeta, after defeating Hiroki and Q, continued their training, where they caught the attention of Daishinkan himself. The High Priest admitted that Goku and Vegeta possessed equivalent power to the power of a god of destruction, and that the two Saiyans were probably already stronger than most gods of destruction, and on one occasion Daishinkan asked both of them to use fusion, and despite Vegeta's unwillingness to do so, Daishinkan was very surprised to see that Gogeta, the fusion between Goku and Vegeta, had such great power that it could match the power of an angel, and Zeno-sama, upon learning this, was curious to see a fight between Gogeta and an angel. But Daishinkan was not let this happen because the angels could not fight anyone, and if they fought the chances of some universes being destroyed were very high, and unfortunately for Zeno the battle did not happen. All the gods of destruction were happy, because their lives would not be lost because of a simple battle. In the 7th universe, currently in the 7th universe, more precisely on the planet of the God of Destruction, it was possible to see Goku, Vegeta, and Yamoshi facing each other. The three Saiyans were transformed into their true Super Saiyan God forms. The battle of the three Saiyans ended when Whis suddenly appeared in their midst, holding the blow of the three Saiyans, who were surprised by his arrival. Yamoshi said, "Whis, I thought you were talking to your father and your brothers," Yamoshi said as he left the combat stance and took a more relaxed stance, just like Goku and Vegeta. Whis said, "And I talked to them. Miss Yamoshi, you will have to go to the world of Void to participate in the succession tournament, where you will have to face the other gods of destruction, and if you win you will become the official goddess of destruction of the 7th universe. But Goku also has to go because my father knows about Excalibur. My father asked you to take the sword for him. Maybe you will keep the Excalibur. Vegeta is invited to go too," said the angel while looking at the three Saiyans, who were surprised by all the information received. But Yamoshi already knew that this would happen at any moment and was even ready for it. Yamoshi thought, I'm finally going to officially assume the role of Goddess of Destruction, so I can hide my secret more easily, and I'm also going to continue protecting the planet from the Namekians and the entire universe, and I already know how I'm going to do that. The Saiyan girl thought because Goku was in her future plan. Vegeta said, so Beerus is going to stop being the god of destruction of the 7th universe? Seriously? The Saiyan prince asked while looking at Whis and then at Yamoshi. Whis said, Mr. Beerus, like some gods of destruction, was not committed to his duties, and because of that my father made the decision to replace him, but my father needs someone strong and committed, and due to Yamoshi's latest actions, he saw that the ancestor of the Saiyans is doing her job as goddess of destruction very well, and now my father just needs to see if Yamoshi is really strong. She said the angel while looking at the prince of the Saiyans. Yamoshi said, okay, then let's go find these other gods of destruction because I want to go visit Yuhiko so I can talk to her, she said the ancestor of the Saiyans while returning to her base form as well as Goku and Vegeta. Whis. Upon hearing Yamoshi's words, he hit his staff in the air, making a pillar of energy surround his body along with everyone present, and soon everyone disappeared from that place, and in a few seconds the 3 Saiyans and the angel reappeared in the world of the void, which was the place where the Tournament of Power had taken place in the past. When Yamoshi arrived at the place, she attracted everyone's attention, especially the god of destruction from the 11th universe who was called Vermouth. Vermouth said, so this is the one who will take Beerus' place? This woman is incredibly beautiful. I hope she's single. The god of destruction from the 11th universe said very excitedly when he looked at Yamoshi and saw her beauty. That didn't please his Anya called Margarita at all. Beerus thought, apparently Yamoshi has already managed to attract the attention of some gods of destruction like Vermouth, and that's not a big surprise. After all, he's always going after women he thinks are beautiful. But now is not the time to think about the opinion of the other gods of destruction at the moment. I have to focus on facing and beating Yamoshi to continue being the god of destruction in my universe, and even though I don't really want to stay in that position, I can lose to a girl. I won't let it happen under any circumstances, thought the god of destruction of the 7th universe while looking at Yamoshi who wanted to take her position. Yamoshi was also staring at Beerus. In the world of the void. Currently in the Void world, it was possible to see that all the gods of destruction were gathered for the succession tournament where Yamoshi would have to face all the gods of destruction to prove himself worthy and powerful enough to officially become the new goddess of destruction of the 7 degrees universe. And in addition to the divine beings, Goku and Vegeta were present, who were not only invited but also already possessed a power similar to that of divine beings. Yamoshi said, apparently I will be forced to face all these gods of destruction to become the new goddess of destruction of the 7th universe, but I still think it is an exaggeration that I have to face all the gods of destruction. After all, I should face just Beerus since I'm going to replace him and not the other gods of destruction. But that's just my opinion, and at the moment it's worthless. She spoke to Saiyan as she looked at all the gods of destruction and realized that there were some among them who were looking at her with different eyes. But Yamoshi didn't care as he was already used to these looks. Daishinkan said, your opinion really isn't important at the moment, Yamoshi, but in reality her wish will come true. Originally you were supposed to face all the gods of destruction to become the new goddess of destruction of the 7th universe, but Mr. Beerus made the request to turn this tournament into a duel of succession, where if Beerus wins he remains the god of destruction, and if he loses Yamoshi will become the new goddess of destruction, said the high priest while looking at everyone present, especially Beerus and Yamoshi. Yamoshi thought, much better to face Beerus alone than to face all the gods of destruction. This way it will be easier and faster for me to take on the official role of Goddess of Destruction and protect everyone from a great evil that is to come. Of course, just being a goddess, it won't be enough, and I'll need Goku to impregnate me for my plan to work. I have to create a warrior as strong as both of us, Yamoshi said excitedly while looking at Beerus, who was still serious. With Daishinkan's speech, everyone in the arena left and went to the stands, leaving only Yamoshi in the arena, and then Beerus, who was in the stands, went to the arena and prepared to face Yamoshi. Daishinkan said, apparently you two are ready, so let the 7th Universe God of Destruction Succession Tournament begin, said the High Priest. starting the duel between Beerus and Yamoshi to find out who will be the new god of destruction of the 7th universe. Beerus and Yamoshi were standing there facing each other while a heavy atmosphere was in the air because of the serious and cold gaze of both warriors. Beerus and Yamoshi looked at each other as if they wanted to kill each other, and they really intended to do that, and the tension that was in the air was making everyone anxious for that fight, and it didn't take long for both warriors to start releasing their auras, doing everything around tremble. And when Beerus and Yamoshi's aura began to clash, it caused an impact wave to be formed. Goku thought, is this just the shock of their power? Amazing, thought the Saiyan, surprised by what was happening in that fight. After the initial shock of Beerus and Yamoshi's auras, the place simply fell silent until both warriors disappeared and reappeared in front of each other, clashing their fists, generating a sonic boom that split the arena in half, surprising everyone. Yamoshi and Beerus, after clashing their fists, they separated, and Yamoshi immediately transformed into a Super Saiyan and advanced towards Beerus, and when he approached him, Yamoshi started a sequence of blows that Beerus defended, and when he found an opening he hit a hook in the chin from the Saiyan girl, followed by a kick to the abdomen that made Yamoshi go backwards. Yamoshi attacked with a beam of energy, but Beerus used his energy of destruction to defend himself, nullifying half of the power of that attack. Yamoshi, seeing that her attack was not as effective, she advanced towards Beerus, and halfway through she took on her Super Saiyan God form, which made her faster and stronger than before, and Beerus was not left behind and activated an aura made purely from its energy of destruction and advanced towards Yamoshi, starting a fight between the two warriors at a high speed that generated impact waves strong enough to generate explosions throughout the arena. Everyone was surprised by that duel, including the angels, who didn't know the strength Yamoshi possessed and were surprised by how strong Beerus was in his current state. Yamoshi is the first to break the rhythm of the locked blows, landing a right cross on Beerus, who felt a little stunned, something that Yamoshi took advantage of and landed a sequence of blows on Beerus' chest, finishing with a kick that threw Beerus away. But still in midair he balanced himself, and when placing his feet on the ground, Beerus caught a momentum that destroyed the ground and came forward with all his might, landing a punch at Yamoshi, who defended himself by crossing his arms, but still ended up being thrown back, sinking his feet on the ground, leaving a trail across the arena that already had several cracks from what was still left of the arena. Yamoshi was very surprised by the power that Beerus possessed, and she was already getting tired and needed to end it as soon as possible. And Beerus again advanced towards her, and Yamoshi also did so. But in the middle of the journey, Yamoshi created a sword made of ki, which surprised Beerus, who didn't have enough time to react and ended up receiving a blow that cut his cheek, causing blood to come out of the wound. When Beerus was injured, he backed away and growled, irritated at being bleeding, and Yamoshi gave a mocking smile, which made Beerus angrier, causing him to increase his power and create several spheres of destruction and throw them in the direction of Yamoshi, who used his own energy of destruction in his ki sword and cut through all the spheres of destruction that came towards him with great mastery. Yamoshi said, "Is that all you have to show me? I thought the great god of destruction of the 7th universe was stronger than this," said the ancestor of the Saiyans in a mocking manner, making light of the power that Beerus was demonstrating, as it was insignificant compared to her total power, and Beerus knew it. Beerus said, "You say that, but so far you've only managed to make a mere cut on my face. I thought the Saiyan ancestor and my supposed successor was more powerful than that." Beerus spoke in a tone as mocking as Yamoshi is that she ended up getting irritated by it. Yamoshi said, "So let's see who's stronger, you stupid cat," Yamoshi said before transforming again into his true Super Saiyan God form. After Yamoshi transformed, Beerus released his full power by removing the bracelets that Beerus was wearing, which were in reality extremely heavy weights, and without them now Beerus was stronger and faster than before. Beerus and Yamoshi once again began to exchange a sequence of series of blows at a breakneck speed, so much so that Goku and Vegeta were forced to transform again to be able to follow the fight, and everyone else was paying close attention to the outcome of that battle. Some of them, they were rooting for Beerus to win. Few were rooting for Yamoshi, and there were those who weren't rooting for anyone, as they were just enjoying that magnificent fight between two superpowers of planetary destruction. The battle at that moment was at a level that many thought it was impossible for those warriors to reach. Yamoshi and Beerus were exchanging a series of incessant punches, and with each punch they landed on each other. It generated a wave of impact and explosions that caused the entire arena to be shattered, leaving thousands of fragments scattered across that empty world. But soon everyone was able to see Beerus and Yamoshi, one in each fragment of the arena. The two warriors were looking at each other. Both had wounds on their bodies along with some blood stains on their bodies and, especially in their mouths, that were still losing some blood. Yamoshi said, "You really are strong, so strong that you really deserve the title of God of Destruction of the 7th universe. But how about we use all our power and I will show you that I will take care of the 7th universe better than you, and I need this position more than ever." At that moment there was silence in the arena, and with that silence everyone was waiting to see which of the two warriors would make the first move, but neither of them moved. But it didn't take long for everyone to feel a shiver through their body, followed by two pillars of energy that were being released by Beerus and Yamoshi that made the entire void world shake, and the pressure was so much that Goku and Vegeta ended up fainting due to the power released by Yamoshi and Beerus, and in a few minutes everyone saw the pillars disappear, and with that everyone could see Yamoshi in his true God Super Saiyan form. Using 100% of his power, his hair became huge with a slightly silver and white hue, and Beerus had a similar shape, the one that Topo had used during the Tournament of Power, but it had an aura a little different from Topo's. Only the angels noticed it and knew what it was. Daishinkan said, "Apparently the real battle will begin at this point." The high priest said with a smile on his face, seeing the real battle begin, and he knew that the end of this battle would be quick. After Daishinkan said these words, there was a huge explosion on the battlefield, and it was possible to see that there was a person on the ground. That was the end of the battle, and Daishinkan from his smile already knew who the big winner had been. Empty world. After a long period of time, the battle between Beerus and Yamoshi using all their powers finally ended with the victory of Yamoshi, who managed to stay on his feet after the last attack where Beerus ended up on the ground. Even though Beerus used all his strength against Yamoshi, she managed to overcome his power thanks to the evolutionary characteristics that Saiyans possess, and in the battle Yamoshi became strong enough to overcome Beerus and defeat him, as well as leaving him extremely injured, but in this case both were very injured. Yamoshi said, "Apparently you can't get up anymore and your energy is extremely low. Beerus, that means I managed to defeat you, and the winner of this duel is me." She spoke a little breathlessly because she was very tired from having used a lot of her power throughout the battle, and because of her injuries too, as she was very injured and one of her eyes could no longer open, but she could still see enough. Beerus thought, "Apparently that prophetic dream of mine was true. I ended up being defeated by the goddess of Saiyans, and now I will lose my position as God of Destruction to her. I should have trained more in the past, but I'm lazy. But that doesn't matter anymore. After all, my prophetic dream was right from the beginning. I lost, and I will probably die after leaving my role as God of Destruction," thought the now former God of Destruction, already accepting his defeat and imminent death, and now all he could do was lie on the ground. Whis thought, so in the end Mr. Beerus ended up being defeated by Mrs. Yamoshi. I can say that of all the thousands of battles between divine beings that I have ever witnessed, this was by far the most intense of them all. But in the end, all of this was caused by Mr. Beerus himself. From the beginning he wanted to know if Yamoshi was still alive. I already imagined that something could happen, and in the end that prophetic dream he had ended up coming true. But it only came true because Mr. Beerus went after him. Because if he hadn't done that, he and Yamoshi wouldn't have met and none of this would be happening. But some bad things must happen so that other good things can happen in the future, and now I hope that the 7th universe prospers more now that She will be the new goddess of destruction of the 7th universe officially. Whis thought, sad because he wouldn't spend much of his time with his best friend and student, but with Yamoshi now. Daishinkan said, as everyone can see, Beerus, the former god of destruction of the 7th universe, is unable to continue the fight, and as Yamoshi, who is still standing, is the winner of this duel, and because she is the winner, she will also be the new goddess of destruction of the 7th degree universe from this moment on. But let's make things official, said the high priest before snapping his fingers, making Yamoshi and Beerus completely recover from both their injuries and their energy. Daishinkan, after recovering Beerus and Yamoshi's energy, began to float until he approached Yamoshi, who upon seeing this knelt down in respect, and with that Daishinkan summoned his angel staff and placed it over Yamoshi's head. Daishinkan said, I, as High Priest, make Yamoshi the new goddess of destruction of the 7th universe, and Beerus, the former god of destruction of the 7th universe, will lose much of his power as he is no longer the god of destruction of the 7th universe. With Daishinkan's speech, Beerus' god of destruction clothes ended up disappearing, giving way to a priest-style outfit, something Beerus wore before he was a god of destruction, and Yamoshi's goddess of destruction clothes, which had been largely destroyed by cause of the battle against Beerus, but have now ended up being rebuilt by the power of Daishinkan. Beerus, who was in his corner, began to feel weaker as the seconds passed, and soon he saw his energy leaving his body, and with that much of his power of destruction disappeared, something that made him give a heavy sigh. Daishinkan said, I hope you are a better goddess of destruction than your predecessor Beerus, and I expect great achievements from you. So don't disappoint me, and especially don't disappoint Zeno-sama, or else we will have to replace you, and that's not worth it for you and everyone present in this place. Those who are not doing their job as gods of destruction correctly will be replaced by new gods of destruction, and unlike Beerus you will lose your lives. Beerus was an exception, and it will not happen again, so be aware of that, spoke the High Priest while looking at all the gods of destruction. 1 year later in some Galaxia in Universe 7, 1 year has passed since the day Yamoshi ended up officially becoming the goddess of destruction of the 7th universe, where she did her job as the new goddess of destruction with excellence, doing a much better job than Beerus' job. Yamoshi, every time she worked as a goddess of destruction, she had several thoughts about a new enemy that could appear in the not-so-distant future, and it was something that Whis realized after a few months and ended up asking why she was with this feeling. But Yamoshi didn't reveal why she was like that. She just said that it was something that was part of her past, one that she thought had already died, but apparently was alive, and this caused tremendous anger in Hiroki, but she didn't reveal the which was, but it makes her very worried. On the planet of the god of destruction of the 7th universe, currently on the planet of the god of destruction of the 7th universe, it was possible to see Yamoshi in his new room looking at a window that overlooked the planet's lake, and the new goddess of destruction was only wearing a robe and not her clothes. Goddess of destruction, Yamoshi thought, no matter how much I thought I can't get rid of this feeling that something bad is going to happen in a few years and I'm just waiting for the worst, I feel like I won't be strong enough to defeat this new enemy. So I need to have someone powerful for this, and the only way I can think of is to have a child with a powerful man so that our child will be strong enough to defeat this new threat. And I already know who this child's father will be, even though I don't want him to. Use this method is the only way I have it. I needed at least one night with him, said Yamoshi in her thoughts as she remembered Goku while she looked at the lake, and she soon sighed. And Yamoshi went to Whis, where he made a request that he found strange, but after she explained what she thought was happening he understood, and with that Whis ended up increasing her chances of getting pregnant within 24 hours, and with that Yamoshi ended up calling Goku to go to the planet of the goddess of destruction, where he ended up training with Yamoshi, and after that they ended up eating several different foods, and among these foods there were several drinks with aphrodisiac effects, and after they ate and the effect of the drinks managed to affect Goku, he and Yamoshi ended up going to her room and had a hot night where Yamoshi ended up getting pregnant. After a few weeks, the confirmation of Yamoshi's pregnancy ended up being revealed by Whis, and with that Yamoshi asked Whis to speed up the birth of her son, and that was what Whis did in a few seconds. Yamoshi's son was born. A little boy very similar to Yamoshi with some Goku's characteristics. Goku after a few weeks ended up finding out that Yamoshi's son was his, and Yamoshi apologized for making Goku cheat on his wife, but it was something that was necessary, but it wasn't something that anyone needed to know at that moment. 13 years later. 13 years had passed since the birth of Goku and Yamoshi's son. During all this time Yamoshi trained him to be a powerful warrior, but as he was also Goku's son, they spent time together too, as their son was in Goku's home while Yamoshi was on another planet training some of his techniques. Yamoshi was calmly training her techniques, and as there were no living beings on the planet she didn't need to hold back. But in the middle of her training, a black key sphere ended up heading towards Yamoshi, but she managed to hit the sphere, which was redirected to a more distant location, and when it hit the ground, a mountain ended up being disintegrated. Yamoshi said, "It seems that I was right and you are really alive, but it is a shame that you followed the same path as your father, my son Hercules," she said, looking up at the sky and seeing a man who looked like Hiroki staring at her. Hercules said, "You have no right to call me son Yamoshi. You are just the woman who let me die even though I am of your blood, and you are also the woman responsible for the death of my father, the one who protected and trained me in the past, and thanks to him I am here today," he said while looking at his mother with a look of disgust and anger. Yamoshi said, "I never let you die. Your father told me you died, and after that I sought revenge against everyone responsible for your death," she shouted while looking at her son. Hercules said, "You are more of a liar than my father told me, but whatever. I came here today just to let you know that I will come back and I will take revenge on my father, and as you took something important from me, I will do the same thing and take something from you, and from what I know you have a new son. No, that's it? Enjoy it while it's still alive, because it won't last long," he said looking at his mother, who opened her eyes wide. But it didn't take long for Hercules to simply disappear from that place, leaving his mother very angry. Yamoshi said, "Hercules, your father lied about everything. He manipulated us, but if you don't want to believe me, that's okay. I won't let that happen. I will protect my son, and even if I have to eliminate you, I will do it, Hercules," she said while clenching her fists and running towards planet Earth to warn about the new threat that was after her son and will probably be an even greater threat than Hiroki. The 7th universe. Currently in the 7th universe, more precisely at son Goku's house, it was possible to see that he was having a family lunch there, where Goku and his family were present, including his son with Yamoshi, who was training with his two brothers, Gohan and Goten, who were surprised to see that their younger half-brother was so young and was already very powerful to the point that they both had to go all out, and yet Gohan and Goten had some difficulties, while Yamoshi and Goku's son was using his Super Saiyan transformation because he didn't think it was necessary to use his Super Saiyan God form at that moment, and because he didn't know how to control his divine power completely. In addition, Whis was also present at the place, as he was keeping an eye on the son of Yamoshi, who had asked the angel for this. But it didn't take long for the training battle between the three Saiyans to end, as they both felt Yamoshi's energy approaching planet Earth. Something that made his son become a little thoughtful, as he could feel people's emotions, and that of his mother was very strange. Goku said, "Yamato, did something happen for Yamoshi to be coming to planet Earth? It seems like you felt something," Goku said when he noticed that his son had felt strange when he felt his mother's energy. Yamato said, "My mother has a very strange aura. She seems to be worried and afraid of something or someone. But this is strange, since my mother is the goddess of destruction. She shouldn't worry. I have no idea why she is like this, but it is worrying," Yamato said as he looked at his father and then looked up at the sky again to see his mother arriving at the scene. Goku said, "Did something happen, Yamoshi?" Yamato said that his aura was strange, and by the look on his face he was right. "So did something happen that made you worried and scared?" Goku asked as he approached the current goddess of destruction of the 7th universe and also the mother of his youngest son. Yamoshi said, "Unfortunately, yes. What I feared happened, and even though I thought it was impossible to happen, unfortunately it happened," Yamoshi said while looking at Goku and then at his son. Whis said, "If it's about what you told me before, then he really is alive, isn't that right, Miss Yamoshi?" asked the angel while looking at his goddess of destruction. Yamato said, "What is Whis talking about, Mom? Who is really alive? Is Hiroki still alive, or did he manage to come back to life?" the young Saiyan asked, because he didn't understand anything that was happening at that moment. Yamoshi said, "Hercules is his older brother. He is alive. Before you ask me, he is my first son, who I had many years ago with Hiroki when we were still a couple. At that time I thought that Hercules had died, and blinded by anger I went after those responsible for his death and eliminated them all out of revenge. But in the end I never got to see his body. But at that time I really liked Hiroki, so I believed his word, but I never thought that he would have lied, much less taken our son to a distant place, far from my reach." Yamoshi spoke with a certain regret in her voice, as she never really imagined meeting her eldest son again after so many years. Yamato said, "So my older brother on my mother's side is alive, and now he came after you for revenge, right? If I had to guess, I would say that he was manipulated by Hiroki to harbor anger towards you. Hiroki must have invented that you abandoned my brother, and now he wants to see you suffering, and as I am one of the most important things for you, if not the most important thing, my brother will want to kill me, right, Mom?" Yamato asked, already deducing a large part of what happened to her mother, something that she was surprised about, as was everyone, except Whis, who already knew the extent of Yamato's special powers. Yamoshi said, well, I was going to explain what happened in my conversation with Hercules, but you already managed to summarize how my conversation with my son went. Yamoshi said, still surprised by the way his son was able to read his emotions. Chi-Chi said, now that you talked about your other son Hercules, and that he wants to get revenge on you, so was that the big reason that led you to sleep with Goku to have a child with him? Goku's wife asked as she approached with a serious expression. Yamoshi said, yes, at that time I was having a feeling that something bad was going to happen in the future, and to ensure that there would be a person strong enough to do it, I decided to have a child, but it needed to be with someone strong. So it ended up being with Goku. Yamoshi spoke with shame because he was remembering his night of love with Goku. Goku said, I know that Yamato is my son, since Whis himself confirmed this, but thinking about it now I don't remember anything from that night, and that's strange. Goku said while scratching his head, as he knew that Yamato was his son, but he didn't remember anything that had happened that night. Yamoshi said, I admit that I needed to have a child with Goku, but he would never stay with me, so I had to manipulate Goku and make him drink a very strong aphrodisiac drink, and we ended up having that night of love. But he doesn't remember because the effects of the drink, which was very strong, and from what I saw, Goku is weak with drinks. Yamoshi said, embarrassed at having to use a drink to manipulate Goku, while her face turned red with embarrassment as she remembered the scenes from the night in question. Chi-Chi said, so this is the real truth, you got my husband drunk to have a child with him, so that your son would be strong enough to fight your other son? This is the craziest story I've ever heard in my life, and this is a very good excuse for sleeping with other people's husbands. Chi-Chi spoke with clear anger and mockery in her voice as she looked at Yamoshi, who didn't care much about that. Yamoshi said, exactly, but I don't want my son fighting against Hercules. I'm both their mother, and I don't want to see my children killing each other because of the mistake of that idiot Hiroki who just wanted to see me suffer, so I just came to warn you that Yamato will stay with you for a while, Goku, until I can solve this problem with Hercules, and since Yamato will be with you, I will feel better knowing that he is with his father, and you are strong enough to protect him and the rest of your family. Goku said, okay, I'm going to take advantage and warn all the other Z warriors, and I'm also going to ask for help from Beerus, who, by the way, is on a distant island that belongs to the Capsule Corporation. I'm going to warn them all to prepare for a future enemy that we will have to face. Yamato said, Mom, if Hercules is like his father, Hiroki, then he must also have a very powerful evil energy and won't be defeated easily, so how will you be able to defeat my brother? Yamoshi said, I'm going to go to the Daishinkan and get Excalibur again, and this time it won't be Goku who will use it but me, so you don't need to worry about me. Whis said, so let's go, Miss Yamoshi. She asked the angel, already ready to go to the place where her father should be together with Excalibur. Yamoshi spoke telepathically, Goku, I don't know if I'll be able to do what I have to do, so there's a good chance I'll end up dying, but if I die, take care of our son, and if Hercules tries to get to you and Yamato, eliminate Hercules without thinking twice, just like you did with Hiroki. Yamoshi spoke telepathically to Goku, who upon hearing just nodded in agreement, and with that she smiled and soon disappeared in a pillar of energy alongside Whis. Yamato thought, I hope you don't die, Mom. The boy thought when he saw his mother leaving in that pillar of light.
In the Celestial Dimension. Currently in the Celestial Dimension, this being the dimension where Zeno, the Absolute Being, lives together with his advisor, the High Priest Daishinkan, it was possible to see that Zeno was in a room playing with his version of the future that Goku had brought from another timeline to be Zeno's friend, and they were being watched by Daishinkan, who remained standing in a corner watching his two masters having fun, but it didn't take long for him to feel the presence of one of his sons, who was accompanying Yamoshi, the new goddess of destruction of 7 Degree Universe, and the presence of both ended up piquing the High Priest's curiosity. Daishinkan thought, apparently something serious must have happened in the 7th universe for Whis and Yamoshi to have come here, and from the aura that I can feel from Yamoshi, it must be something worrying. Now I wonder if the reason they came here is something important for the 7th universe, or is it only important for Yamoshi? The High Priest asked himself in his thoughts as he felt the presence of one of his sons and Yamoshi slowly approaching him. Daishinkan said, it looks like we have guests, so I'll go and talk to them. Until I return, protect our masters, and if they need anything, they can come to me and let me know." He spoke, and suddenly Zeno's two bodyguards appeared next to Daishinkan and nodded in agreement, showing that they both heard the high priest's orders, and with that they went to the two Zenosama, and Daishinkan went to Yamoshi and Whis. Daishinkan said, "It's been a while since I saw you two. The last time was when you came to return Excalibur, and also when Yamoshi officially became the goddess of destruction of the 7th universe." The high priest commented politely as he approached the guests, and just by looking at Yamoshi's face, it was possible to notice that she was more serious than usual, and at the same time worried about something unknown to the high priest. Whis said, "It's really been a while since we saw each other, Father, but we came today to make a request to you." The angel spoke respectfully towards his father, who was already imagining that they came to make a wish. After all, Goku was not with them, and this already showed that it was something serious since he appeared to play with Zeno and sometimes brought his son with Yamoshi. Daishinkan said, "I had already imagined that you came to ask a question or ask for something. After all, if it were a casual visit, Miss Yamoshi wouldn't have that expression on her face. What would her request be?" "Depending on the request, I can help," Yamoshi said. "I would like to borrow Excalibur, and after resolving a certain matter, I will return it immediately." She spoke and faced the high priest, who had a calm expression on his face. Daishinkan spoke, "And what exactly do you need Excalibur for?" He asked the goddess of destruction, and she seemed to hesitate for a moment, but ended up sighing before answering. Yamoshi said, "Basically, my son Hercules, who I thought was dead several years ago, ended up appearing. In reality, his father hid him and deceived me by saying that he was dead, and also deceived him by saying that I had abandoned him, and now he thinks that I was responsible for the death of his father, who in Hercules' eyes was his only family. And as you may already know, I have a son with Goku. His name is Yamato, and Hercules knows about his existence, and he wants to see me suffer, just like he suffered when he lost his father, and because of that he wants to kill Yamato and probably Goku too, since I think he knows that I like Goku, and as I had a son with him, it's kind of obvious that I already had feelings for him." Explained the goddess of destruction from the 7th universe while looking at the high priest, who began to analyze her situation, and he ended up laughing lightly at Yamoshi's family situation, something that surprised her, and even Whis didn't expect that. His father's reaction. Whis thought, "Did my father end up laughing at Yamoshi's situation? Normally he is very serious about any situation, be it one involving angels, the gods of destruction, or even the universes, and the only times I have seen him laughing were extremely rare events, like the one time he got much more serious, which was when an ancient evil being ended up trying to kill Zenosama. I wasn't there to see that battle, but I think it was at that time that Excalibur ended up being created, and perhaps this evil being was the first evil being to lose his life by the blade of Excalibur in the past." He thought the angel while looking at his father, who had been smiling until that moment. Daishinkan thought, family problems so serious that they could possibly put an entire universe at risk, and everyone else could be at risk too. "Why does this remind me of the past?" he thought before sighing and remembering his old wife, who ended up becoming a threat that he had to stop her, along with some of his older children, but this was something that only he knew, and apart from him, no one else had knowledge about it. Such an event. Yamoshi said, "I don't know exactly where you found the humor in my current situation, but if possible, I would like to be able to use Excalibur to defeat Hercules, just like his father. He has a very powerful evil energy, and to defeat him, I need the Excalibur, or if not, he will end up destroying the entire 7th universe and eliminating me in the process, and if he is more like his father, he will probably want to go to the other universes to destroy them, not because he needs to, but because he wants to." She said, trying to convince Daishinkan to allow her to use Excalibur to defeat his firstborn son. Daishinkan said, "And why exactly do you need Excalibur to do this?" That Saiyan called Son Goku used Excalibur to defeat Hiroke, and from what I know, he managed to use the full power of the transformations without using Excalibur, which shows that he has a certain percentage of gold divine power within him, so he would be able to face his son Yamoshi, and he would be able to eliminate him, so I don't see the need to use Excalibur in this mission," said the high priest while looking at Yamoshi, and he really didn't see the need to leave a weapon as powerful as Excalibur in Yamoshi's hands, since Goku had enough pure energy to hurt and eliminate Yamoshi's firstborn son. Whis said, Looking from that point of view, it really wouldn't be necessary to use Excalibur to be able to face and defeat Hercules. In that way, Goku could defeat and eliminate him without the need for you to have to do that, Yamoshi. That way, you wouldn't have to carry the guilt of having eliminated your own son. After all, even though he's bad, he's still your son, said the angel, already knowing how his new goddess of destruction would feel if she really had to eliminate Hercules. Yamoshi said, I know it would be easier to let Goku eliminate him so I wouldn't feel guilty and bitter, but I know that the power that Hercules has at the moment is much greater than Goku's power, since even though my son is young, he was a great prodigy who could easily surpass the power of his father and I, and now with his hatred, he must have a higher level of power than his father Hiroke, and I know that at the moment only I can defeat him, and possibly Yamato could defeat him, but he is too young and still weak. If he had time, maybe he could defeat his older brother, but at the moment I know that I am the only one capable of defeating him, and he is my son, which makes him mine responsibility of dealing with this situation, and that's why I need Excalibur right now. She spoke with a certain regret in her voice. Daishinkan said, apparently you're not going to give up on this, so I'll lend Excalibur to you, but it will take a while since I ended up sealing it and the seal is very strong, he said while looking at Yamoshi and then starting to walk to the place where the sacred sword was. Currently in the 7th universe, more precisely at Son Goku's family residence, it was possible to see that a large part of the family was having fun and enjoying the day, but there were some warriors who were on alert because Goku warned them that it was a matter of time before Hercules make his first attack and he wouldn't just go after Yamato, Hercules would eliminate the entire family on Yamato's father's side, which in this case would be Goku's family, so thanks to that, all the warriors were on alert and Goku, just for guarantee, already had his Ultra Instinct activated in incomplete form to increase the range of his Kai detection and sense of danger, which would be the most useful at that moment. Yamato said, Dad, is Mom okay? She left here very serious, and I know what she is going to do, and it could be very dangerous, said the youngest Saiyan, worried about his mother while looking at the clouds, something that Yamato liked to do with Yamoshi when they were on planet Earth. Goku said, your mother is the goddess of destruction of the 7th universe sun. She is very strong and will not be defeated easily by anyone, and even if something like that happens, we could use the Dragon Balls to bring her back. That's in the worst case, but I don't think it will be necessary. After all, Yamoshi is very strong, said the oldest Saiyan while looking at his youngest son. But even saying these words, Yamato was not so sure about Yamoshi's victory against his eldest son. Yamato said, Dad, I can read your aura, and I know you don't believe that my mother will end up defeating Hercules, Yamato said while facing his father, who just sighed because sometimes he forgot what his son was capable of reading people. Goku said, sometimes I forget about your special abilities, Yamato. I'm not sure if your mother will win because, like it or not, Hercules is her son, and as a mother she wouldn't kill her own son in such a way, but I'm sure Yamoshi will be able to defeat him. After all, she is very strong, said the oldest Saiyan before stroking his son's hair, who ended up smiling. The small family party continued silently for a while and everyone was already sitting at the table eating when suddenly Goku and Yamato stopped eating and looked up at the sky, and everyone present noticed this. Chi-Chi said, Goku? Yamato? Did something happen to make you suddenly stop eating and look at the sky together? Goku's wife asked as she looked at her husband. Goku didn't say anything, he just stood up and continued to stare at the sky. But it didn't take long for Goku to simply disappear and reappear over his house, kicking a ki sphere that ended up being thrown into a mountain that was disintegrated with the explosion of that ki attack that ended up making a very big noise, and this surprised everyone except Goku and Yamato, who were looking at the person responsible for that ki attack. Yamato said, I thought he would at least take a little longer before coming after me, but apparently he is very determined to make my mother's life a real hell, said the youngest Saiyan as he stood up with his brothers, and soon everyone was staring at the unwanted guest. Goku said, by your face and that energy, I would say that you are Hercules, Yamoshi's eldest son with that guy called Hiroki, Goku commented while looking at his youngest son's older brother. Hercules didn't really like how Goku had referred to his father. Hercules said, Yamoshi and I may share the same blood, but that doesn't make her my mother. After all, a mother wouldn't abandon her own child to let him be taken care of only by the father, said the evil Saiyan with a certain anger in his voice. After all, Hercules didn't like his mother and didn't even consider her his real mother. Yamato said, If you were a little more intelligent, you would know that your father deceived you all this time to make you believe that our mother abandoned you. But in reality, your father took you away from your mother in order to raise you, and with that turn you into an exact copy of him," said the youngest Saiyan while looking at his older brother, who looked at him and smiled slightly. Hercules said, "Apparently you must be my younger brother, and from what I see, you are very powerful for someone so young. It is no wonder that you are the son of the new goddess of destruction of this universe with such a powerful mortal like the one who is present here. And from my knowledge, you must be Son Goku, the most powerful mortal in the universe, and also the man who killed my father using that sword called Excalibur," commented the evil Saiyan while looking at his younger brother and then at Goku. Goku said, "Gohan, Goten, get out of here immediately and take your mother with you, and this is not a request but an order," ordered Goku when looking at his children with Chi-Chi, who, even though they wanted to stay, ended up obeying Goku and left immediately, taking their families and their mother. But Hercules had noticed Chi-Chi's presence, and despite everything, he ended up liking her, something that made Hercules smile mischievously at the woman, but only Yamato had noticed. Goku and Hercules stood there facing each other for a few moments before Goku fully activated his Ultra Instinct and Hercules transformed into his corrupted Super Saiyan God form. With the two already transformed, they advanced towards each other, starting hand-to-hand combat. Each blow that collided generated an impact wave large enough to make the place shake and the ground crack, and this made Goku angry because Chi-Chi would want to kill him later since their house would probably be destroyed because of that fight between them. Goku began to attack at an even greater speed than normal, aiming his blows at Hercules' face. His fists were overflowing with pure energy that could be capable of hurting and even killing him. But Hercules was extremely fast and was easily dodging all the blows of his opponent. Hercules until that moment was attacking Goku not with the intention of defeating him, but rather studying his movements. But the moment Hercules got the basics of Goku's fighting style, Hercules began to attack with the intention of hurting Goku, and at the moment this happened, Goku received a sequence of blows, including 3 blows to his face, 2 to the abdomen and ribs, and a kick from top to bottom towards Goku's shoulder, which ended up dislocating due to the force of the blow he received. Hercules finished that sequence with a key sphere that exploded at close range, sending Goku crashing into the ground, creating a crater where he fell. Yamato, upon seeing that scene, was perplexed by the strength his older brother possessed and how easy it was for him to adapt to his father's combat style and his Ultra Instinct. Goku, even with those blows, was still capable of fighting. After all, he had enough combat experience to know his limits and he was still far from it. So using his strength, Goku managed to put his shoulder in place again, and with that, Goku elevated his power and advanced towards Hercules, who predicted Goku's movements and dodged his attack. But Hercules was not expecting to receive a punch coming from completely nowhere, which ended up making him run into Goku's house, destroying the house in the process. Hercules, even surprised, stood up only to see several clones of Goku made of Kai, which made him smile at that, and it didn't take long for all of Goku's clones to go towards Hercules, who smiled even more and concentrated his energy in his body. Feeling that that attack would be dangerous, Goku immediately went to his son and used his teleportation to leave that location and go to a distant mountain. Goku was able to see a huge explosion happening, one that was so big that it surpassed an explosion from an atomic bomb. Goku was going to leave his son there and go to Hercules to buy more time so that Yamato could leave the planet and go to Namek to be safe there with his aunt Yuhiko, but a pillar of energy appeared in the place and Yamoshi and Whis came out of the pillar. Yamoshi said, "It seems that I arrived a little late." She said, the goddess of destruction arriving at the scene. In her hands was the sacred sword Excalibur, ready for combat. Goku said, "Everyone is fine so far, and apparently he managed to get Excalibur. But how did you know this fight was happening?" asked the Saiyan, as he looked at the mother of his youngest son. Yamoshi said, "Apparently Hercules attacked the planet Namek, destroying and killing most of the people who lived in the village where I lived during the time I was hidden, and Yuhiko said that he was coming to Earth, and that after managing to eliminate the Yamato, Hercules would return there to catch Yuhiko with one of his women, Goku. Apparently he inherited the pervert characteristic from his father." He commented to the goddess of destruction while thinking about the fact that his son was apparently a pervert like his father. Yamoshi said, "It looks like now it's my turn to take control of this situation. So Whis, you're going to take Goku and Yamato to a safe place, and they're going to stay there until further notice." Goku, if anything happens, I want you to take good care of Yamato and help him inherit my position as goddess of destruction of the 7th universe, Yamoshi said before pulling Goku into a hug, placing the Saiyan between his breasts, something that made Yamato look away to avoid seeing that scene. Goku said, "I would do it even if you didn't ask me," said the Saiyan, somewhat muffled as he was between Yamoshi's breasts, who just laughed and released the Saiyan. Yamoshi said, "Take care, big boy, and hope your mother here can teach that rebellious older brother of yours some good lessons," Yamoshi said, before giving a smile to his youngest son, who reciprocated by smiling back, and soon Yamoshi flew towards Hercules, who, upon noticing his mother's presence on that planet, began to go towards her. In the 7th universe, Yamoshi, with Excalibur in her hands, was heading towards a mountain range of ice mountains, where there wasn't even any living being. And as she knew that her son Hercules had already noticed her presence, she also knew that he was already heading towards her, so Yamoshi was going to a place further away from living beings before starting a battle against his son, or else many humans and animals would end up losing their lives in the midst of that titanic fight between the two Saiyans. Yamoshi thought, "From the moment I arrived on planet Earth, Hercules could have attacked me, but until this moment he hasn't done that, so he seems like he'll want to say something before we fight each other, but no, I think it will be about regret or something similar to that," she thought as she continued flying until she landed on top of a mountain full of snow, and it didn't take long for Hercules to arrive at the location and land in front of her mother, with Hercules no longer transformed into his corrupted Super Saiyan God form, but in its original base form. Hercules said, "It seems that I was right. You weren't running away from me, but rather I got up to a place where there was no living being. You are really predictable, Yamoshi. Even though you are a goddess of destruction, you still want to save the lives of insects like humans. But I won't complain too much about that. After all, if we fought in an area full of humans, we would end up destroying most of them, and probably many women, beautiful women, would lose their lives, something that would be very sad from my point of view. After all, the women on this planet are very beautiful, and I must admit that that lover of yours, Son Goku, has a very beautiful and attractive wife. He is truly lucky," said the evil Saiyan while giving a convinced smile that soon became malicious when he remembered Son Goku's wife, who ended up attracting his attention. Yamoshi said, "I thought you had become someone as bad as your father, but you are acting in the same way. You ended up becoming an exact copy of him, even in the way you talk and think, and that makes you as despicable as him." She spoke in a serious and irritated tone at the same time, and Hercules just laughed in a sarcastic way. Hercules said, "Coming from a woman like you who abandoned me is a certain hypocrisy, but that's not something that surprised me after all. What can I expect from a woman who ended up getting Goku drunk to take him to bed under the pretext of having a son powerful enough to deal with me?" said the Saiyan with a mocking smile. Yamoshi said, "Apparently we have nothing left to talk about, so it's time to put an end to this corrupted lineage of Saiyans," she commented while wielding Excalibur with both hands, making the sword gain a golden glow while releasing its pure energy, something that made Hercules slightly worried about that power that could hurt him a lot, but he ignored that and just smiled more. Excited to face her mother, Hercules said, "Son Goku eliminated my father using this sword, and now you are going to use it to eliminate me. Let's see if you will be able to do this. Let's see if you will be able to kill your own son." He spoke before releasing his corrupted energy, making the snow around him evaporate in a matter of seconds. Yamoshi sighed before squeezing the sword's hilt tightly, making the sword's shine increase, which made Hercules smile even more. Hercules got into a fighting position and then advanced towards Yamoshi, and he began to strike several blows at his mother, who dodged most of the blows, and those that she didn't dodge, she defended with her sword, and when Hercules came into contact, the sword's energy generated a burning sensation in his fists, something he didn't mind because he found that sensation amusing. Yamoshi thought, when he directly hits Excalibur with his fist emanating his evil energy, he ends up being hurt, but he still continues hitting her as if the pain was nothing. "Hercules, you have become a psychotic freak identical to your father." Hercules, upon hearing that, increased his speed and strength. He became more excited and advanced towards her, transforming into his corrupted Super Saiyan God form. And as he approached her, he began a sequence of blows on his mother, who was barely able to defend herself from the blows, merciless attacks from his son, and with that Hercules ended up lowering his guard, something that made Yamoshi smile and counterattack by swinging his sword towards Hercules' neck at an extreme speed, and by pure instinct, Hercules ended up retreating with a surprised expression on his face because he doesn't expect that. Hercules said, "Damn! She wasn't kidding. If I get careless, she'll take my head off with a single blow." Yamoshi said, "As I said before, you are identical to your father, and as such, you also let your guard down when you are too confident in combat. Unfortunately, you ended up dodging that attack. Luckily, your head would be rolling along the ground at that moment. Apparently, my plan to end all this with one blow ended up proving useless," she said before sighing. After all, her plan ended up failing. Hercules said, "If you think defeating me will be that easy, then you really don't know me at all." He spoke before raising his aura, which ended up changing the entire environment around it, making some mountains collapse and the snow around it melt and evaporate, which ended up forcing Yamoshi to distance himself from Hercules. When Hercules raised his power, he simply disappeared and reappeared in front of Yamoshi with a sphere of black energy in his hands that he ended up shooting at his mother, who managed to defend herself, but she was hit and ended up crossing a mountain. Yamoshi quickly recovered from his son's blow and counterattacked by swinging his sword, generating a wave of energy that cut through several mountains at the same time. Hercules ended up having one of his hands ripped off by his mother's blow, but Hercules caught his hand in mid-air and it fit into its original place and used its evil energy to bring its hand back together, making Yamoshi's blow practically useless, which generated a certain anger in Yamoshi when he saw that scene. Hercules concentrated his energy in both of his hands, and soon that energy ended up transforming into blades of evil energy. Yamoshi, upon seeing that, positioned himself and advanced towards Hercules, who did the same thing, and in midair they began an exchange of blows that collided most of the time, generating fragments of energy that, when touching the ground, ended up generating explosions. Yamoshi, upon seeing a small gap, lifted Excalibur into the air and came down with all his might, but Hercules managed to defend himself and trap Excalibur with his two energy blades that he created, which made Yamoshi growl in irritation. Hercules, seeing that his hand could not dodge an attack so close, so he concentrated his energy in his eyes and fired a Kai blow through his eyes, which ended up hitting Yamoshi at close range, causing her to fall against the ground, and in the process, she ended up dropping Excalibur, which Hercules ended up catching, but dropped immediately after feeling his hand being burned at a high speed because of the pure energy in the sword. Hercules, seeing that his mother had not recovered, advanced towards her, but halfway through he ended up receiving a kick to his face that made him cross two mountains, destroying them in the process. Yamoshi said, "You took a long time, Yuhiko." She spoke to the goddess of destruction with a small smile on her face when she saw her Namekian friend who had just arrived at the place. Yuhiko said, "Sorry, I was looking for something to wear since your idiot son had destroyed my clothes," she said while looking at her friend and then at the place where Hercules ended up being thrown. Yamoshi said, "Don't tell me he, like father, likes to destroy girls' clothes for fun." She spoke while wiping the blood that was on the corner of her lips, and then spitting out the blood that had accumulated in her mouth. Hercules soon got up and left the place where he had been kicked by Yuhiko and wiped the corner of his mouth that had blood on it and smiled when he saw Yuhiko, something that made the Namekian gain an expression of disgust and a certain repulsion. Yuhiko said, "This bastard eliminated many Namekians from my village, so I came here to help you take care of this idiot so I can take revenge, and I also want to take revenge for humiliating me like that." She spoke irritated and at the same time ashamed when remembering the comments made by Hercules. Currently in the 7th universe, more precisely in an area of ice mountains where a large part of the mountains had been destroyed and the ice evaporated, it was possible to see Hercules, Yamoshi's firstborn son, looking at his mother and Yuhiko, who had just arrived at the place to help her friend and also take revenge for her companions who recently lost their lives by Hercules' own hands. Hercules said, "I wasn't expecting to see you so quickly, Miss Yuhiko, but I think my beauty is so great that you couldn't stand it and came to see me. But I don't judge. After all, women always go after powerful and imposing men just like me. But I must say that it was not necessary to come to me because I would come to you after resolving the problems with my mother, who apparently you already know very well," said the evil Saiyan in an arrogant and convinced manner while looking at Yuhiko, who ended up sighing and becoming irritated when he saw the boldness of his best friend's eldest son. Yuhiko said, "Was his father as arrogant and proud as this guy? Because I could tell he's as perverted as you, Yamoshi." Yuhiko asked his friend, who sighed and remembered the time she was married to Hercules' father. Yamoshi said, "In reality, his father was more arrogant than him and much more proud. Maybe he inherited some perverted traits from me, but I'm not that bold, or am I?" Yamoshi asked himself before looking at Yuhiko, who found that question very stupid. Yuhiko said, "No, you're a saint, and you certainly didn't hit on half the men who passed through the village when I was younger." Yuhiko spoke ironically as if that question had such an obvious answer, which in the Namekian elder's view was very obvious. The conversation between the two women would continue with some comment from Yamoshi, but before that happened, they both had to dodge a blast of energy that ended up being fired by Hercules, who had gotten bored with that delay, and especially the fact that they were talking bad about him and his father, or that was what he understood from that conversation between the two. Yamoshi said, "Apparently our little conversation ended up making my son angry, so we'll have to stop talking and go back to fighting," Yamoshi said as he landed near his friend, who just sighed. Yuhiko said, "I thought that was already obvious," Yuhiko said before raising his energy, as did Yamoshi, who raised his energy, making Excalibur shine brighter. Somewhere in Universe 7, Frieza said, "It looks like the battle is going to start again. This is incredible. It looks like my plans are finally working out, and those stupid Saiyan's plan went completely wrong. They brought Yamoshi back to defeat my dark form, and I must admit that this woman is incredibly strong. I would be in trouble, but now look, you are fighting yourselves like animals, and I didn't even need to make much effort." Controlling that Hiroke and manipulating his son Hercules was very easy. Now I just need that worm to defeat his mother, the goddess of Saiyans, and Son Goku, and everything will be mine. Do as I ordered, Hercules. Finish them all off. When they saw that Hercules' power had increased, Yamoshi and Yuhiko were surprised and slightly afraid of the evil Saiyan, especially Yuhiko, who ended up witnessing several people in his village lose their lives at his hands, and the expression of pleasure when he did that was the which scared Yuhiko, who at that moment was seeing the same evil expression on Hercules' face. Hercules, in a quick movement, appeared in front of Yuhiko, aiming a punch at his face, but Hercules ended up having his hand cut off by Yamoshi, who cut it with Excalibur, and even though his hand was cut off, Hercules didn't show any pain, and then hit a punch at his mother, who ended up receiving the full blow and was thrown back. Yuhiko, seeing that Hercules was still in front of him, aimed a punch at his stomach, which ended up hitting home, but Hercules made the area he hit release a dark energy that made Yuhiko's fist burn, and before she could get away from him, Yuhiko was finished, receiving a knee that luckily she had managed to defend herself using her hands, but the blow still ended up making her retreat a little, and the moment Yuhiko moved away, Hercules recovered his hand and put it in place, reconnecting it to his arm as well as had done before. Yuhiko said, in addition to being strong, he also has the ability to regenerate. Yuhiko asked, irritated when she saw Hercules with his hand practically intact, but there was a clear line on both of his wrists, which was the place where Excalibur had previously cut. Yamoshi, who had been hit, ended up returning and started hand-to-hand combat against her son, who was managing to defend himself from his mother's blows using his evil keyblades. Hercules said, "What a disappointment. I didn't think that the 7th universe's goddess of destruction would be this weak. But that doesn't surprise me after all. If you were strong, you would have faced and defeated my father, and you wouldn't have chosen your lover to defeat my father. We Saiyans become more powerful when our emotions get too big, so if I take the wife true of Son Goku, would he become more powerful and could he give me a good fight? I don't know, but I think it's worth doing a quick test with Son Goku," said the Saiyan while staring at his mother, who was grinding her teeth upon hearing such words that Yamoshi knew were meant to irritate her, but mainly to irritate Goku, who should have been watching that fight in some way. Yamoshi said, "To be able to do this, you'll have to go through me first." Yamoshi spoke as she released her aura and transmitted it to Excalibur, making its pure power stronger, and this began to drain Hercules' evil energy. Yuhiko said, "I'm here too," said the elder of the Namekians, approaching and trying to land a kick at Hercules, who dodged the blow and did a backflip, taking distance from them. Hercules said, "I will do it with great pleasure." Hercules spoke before moving towards the two women, who also moved towards him. Hercules, in one movement, released his energy, generating a small noise that made the two women move away, and with that, Hercules advanced towards Yamoshi with all his might, but Yuhiko managed to move faster and made his arms stretch out and reach for Hercules' neck, which stopped his advance, and before Hercules could react, Yamoshi swung his sword, making a vertical cut in his abdomen that started in his abdomen and went up to his neck. This made Hercules groan in pain with that attack that seemed to be burning his skin. Yamoshi, seeing that perfect opportunity, ended up preparing himself and making a thrust that would go through Hercules' chest, but when the blade was inches away from Hercules, he disappeared, and when Yamoshi realized it, it had pierced Yuhiko's chest, and this made the two women surprised. But when they looked back, they saw that Hercules was in the place that Yamoshi was previously in, and at that moment, they both realized that he had changed places with Yamoshi so as not to be killed. Hercules, upon seeing the surprised faces of the two women, smiled and then fired a large wave of energy towards the two who were very close, so they were unable to defend themselves from the attack. An attack that ended up destroying everything in front of them, and in the final result generated an explosion similar to an atomic bomb, but on a slightly larger scale. Hercules thought, damn, apparently I ended up not taking this battle seriously and ended up using more energy than necessary, but that was good, since now I know what abilities Yamoshi has, and I also know about the effects of that damn sword, which drained a lot of my energy. I need to recover my energy, and what better way to recover my energy than by draining the energy of some humans, and I have a few in mind. Hercules thought as he remembered some human cities he visited recently. In these cities he turned off his energy to remain discreet and ended up meeting some interesting people, mainly a blonde who seemed to have infinite energy and another blue-haired woman who had a nice body. With such thoughts in mind, Hercules left the place and used one of his abilities to erase his existence, as it would be easier for him to recover his energy that way. After some time, it was possible to see Yamoshi and Yuhiko coming out of a large crater with several injuries on their bodies, especially Yuhiko, who had a large part of his body exposed thanks to the attack that ended up destroying his clothes, and Yamoshi wasn't much different since his clothes were almost completely destroyed. Yuhiko and Yamoshi said, "Damn." The two spoke at the same time in a frustrated tone. After all, their objective was to defeat Hercules, and they had failed and were badly injured at the moment. In the 7th universe, it was possible to see Hercules flying towards a big city with his energy completely turned off so that no one could feel his presence or his energy, and as he was a master in the art of stealth, no one could feel his presence, but as his mother was a goddess of destruction, she had access to an angel who could locate him. So Hercules was trying to go to some city as quickly as possible to recharge his energy. After a short time, the evil Saiyan ended up arriving in a large city, and upon arriving there, he began to analyze the city. Hercules said, "If I remember correctly, this is the city where I saw that woman with blonde hair who had unlimited energy. That woman was beautiful and could be very useful to me, so I could recharge my energy. Furthermore, she is very beautiful and doesn't seem to be someone as fragile as these humans," commented the evil Saiyan as he analyzed the city and began to release a small amount of his energy to find the blonde woman with unlimited energy, and it didn't take long for him to find her, and with that, Hercules smiled in a perverse way. Hercules said, "I found you, but before I go after her, I'm going to recharge some of my energy in the most fun way I know, by eliminating the inferior beings on this planet and draining the rest of their vital energy," Hercules said before an evil smile appeared on his face, already excited about what he was going to do. Hercules began to release some more of his energy, attracting the attention of the Z warriors who lived in that city, and this included Vegeta, who was in the Capsule Corporation with his wife. When Vegeta felt the amount of evil energy in Hercules' aura, the Saiyan Prince was alert because he knew who he was, as Goku warned that someone like Hercules would end up coming to planet Earth to end his son's life. Newest, Bulma said, "Vegeta, did something happen?" the woman asked when she noticed that her husband looked strange. Vegeta said, "Kakarot said that Yamoshi's eldest son would come to planet Earth to destroy everything that Yamoshi cared about, which in this case would be Yamato and possibly Kakarot, but I don't feel the presence of Goku and Yamato in the planet Earth, but I know they are still alive, but apparently Hercules is here on planet Earth, and by the way, he is right here in the city." Returning to the place where Hercules was, it was possible to see that he was floating over the city, and then Hercules raised one of his hands to the sky and gathered his energy in his hand, creating a sphere of energy that was shot to the sky, and when it was high enough, the sphere ended up exploding and transforming into thousands of fragments. People who were walking down the street when they heard the noise of the explosion looked up at the sky and smiled when they saw something similar to fireworks, but it didn't take long for chaos to begin when the fragments of energy began to hit people, injuring and killing some of them. All those fragments began to go after the people who, when hit, their bodies began to become dry while a reddish energy left their bodies and rose to the skies where Hercules was absorbing that energy. Hercules had a big smile on your face as you feel your energy slowly returning. Hercules said, "It's been a while since I felt this wonderful sensation. After all, I haven't absorbed the vital energy of living beings in a long time, and I was already missing this wonderful feeling." Hercules spoke as he continued to absorb the vital energy of the humans who were in the city. Hercules felt an energy attack coming towards him, and he just countered the attack with a slap, throwing him away, and then saw that the person who had fired that blow was a man with light purple hair who was accompanied by an older woman. With blonde hair, those were Trunks, Vegeta's eldest son, and the woman was android number 18, who, by the way, was the woman Hercules was looking for. Trunks said, "I don't know who you are, but I know you're not good because of what you just did here in the city," Trunks said while putting himself in a combat stance and transforming into his Super Saiyan God form. Android NDG-18 said, "I didn't want to have to get into unnecessary fights, but one of his blows almost hurt my daughter, and for that you're going to get hit a lot," said Android 18 before raising her energy, which made Hercules smile when he noticed that she really had practically unlimited energy. Hercules said, "It seems that the Saiyans of this generation think they are saviors of the weakest. What a disappointment. Let me show you what it's like to be a real Saiyan." Hercules spoke before advancing towards his two opponents, who were surprised by such speed. Hercules suddenly appeared in front of Trunks, landing a right hook on his chin that was so strong that blood came out of Trunks' mouth. Then Hercules landed a kick to android number 18's stomach, causing Android to hit a building that ended up falling on top of her. Trunks, even with pain in his chin, tried to punch Hercules, who managed to grab Trunks' fist and twisted it, making Trunks scream in pain, but his scream of pain was muffled by Hercules, who grabbed his face and threw him against the building below him, making Trunks cross a few floors, and before he could react, Hercules advanced towards him and stepped on him hard, making Trunks cross the rest of the floors. This caused the building to fall, and the people inside ended up losing their lives. Android number 18 thought, "Who the hell is this man? That evil energy around him is very powerful, and I couldn't even see him moving before receiving that blow. I don't know why, but the blow I received seems to have been weaker than the blow Trunks received. I don't know why he did that, but I know I have to hold him back until Goku or Vegeta arrives to deal with this guy, because to be honest, he is much stronger than me, and I won't be able to defeat him alone." Android NDEG-18 thought, as she climbed out of the rubble of the building that had fallen on top of her. The moment android number 18 came out of the rubble, she felt a tremor, and the next moment she heard an explosion and saw Trunks being thrown with everything against a car that ended up exploding, and even though Trunks got up, it was visible that he was very hurt. Trunks, his arm was broken and most of his clothes were torn, revealing many injuries, and because he was so injured, Trunks ended up fainting, falling helplessly to the ground. Hercules said, "Pathetic! I never thought I would face someone so weak," Hercules said while floating over the building he demolished. Android NIG-18, upon seeing that Trunks was unable to fight, ended up raising his power to the maximum and then advanced against Hercules, starting to hit him. Hercules allowed himself to be hit by several powerful blows from Android NIG-18, who moved away from Hercules, and with that she gathered a large amount of energy in her hands and fired at Hercules, who smiled and remained still, receiving the blow in full. Thanks to Android NIG-18's blow, a lot of dust and smoke ended up being raised, and upon seeing this, Android NIG-18 thought that she had hurt Hercules, but she ended up discovering that she was wrong when the smoke disappeared, revealing Hercules without any scratches but with an evil aura around him that ended up making her attack completely useless. Hercules said, "You are an interesting woman and you are very beautiful indeed. You are exactly my type of woman, so I will give you the honor of being one of my women who will help me bring the Saiyan race back from extinction." Hercules spoke with a big evil and perverted smile on his face as he stared at Android NDIG-18, who was slightly scared by how strong Hercules was, and even more so now after hearing his words. Hercules smiled when she saw Android number 18's expression, and before she could say anything, Hercules disappeared and reappeared behind her, groping one of her breasts, which made Android give a cry of surprise. And when she noticed what Hercules was doing, she began to struggle, trying to get away from him, which made Hercules like the blonde android even more. But suddenly Hercules felt a powerful energy coming towards him, and before he could see who it was, Hercules received a punch in his face that made him go through several buildings, knocking them all down, and when he recovered, Hercules looked at whoever gave that blow, and saw that the person responsible was Vegeta, the Prince of the Saiyans, who was transformed into his Super Saiyan Blue 2 form, and was staring at him with hatred, something that made Hercules smile and get excited to face someone more powerful. With that, we will end today's video. If you want to see the continuation of this incredible story, leave a lot of likes on the video and comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. So see you another day, guys.